I don't know how to make an intro. I've been staring at the top of the page for like half an hour trying to come up with how to write an intro and just I don't. Devil May Cry. I love it, we all love it, and if you don't, why are you here then? Did you read the title? My journey into DMC started, like with most people, with DMC 5, and then I went and played the older games, except the reboot. I've not played the reboot, I'll get to that. However, when I originally played the older games, I skipped the second one. All I ever heard about it was, it's bad, it's too easy, don't play it. But after playing and loving all the others, it just felt like I had to. Well, some people love DMC 2, so I thought, how bad could it truly be? Oh, that's ooh. Now, let me start by saying, it's not that bad. There were definitely things I enjoyed. A lot of things held good potential, but it's not really good either. However, DMC2, most of all, is weird. Really weird, even compared to the first game. So let's talk about it. We'll talk about all of DMC2, what works, what didn't, and where I think some of the things people say about this game come from. We'll start with the gameplay, specifically how Dante controls, because the weirdness starts immediately. He feels slow, a bit sluggish. Look at the stare. Really? That's what we're going with. Alright then. However, that is mostly visual, but the visuals do somewhat bleed into how a game feels to control. A game like this should feel snappy, responsive, and even the first game had that, mostly, so it's not an age thing. But that's still fine. I got used to that, it just never felt quite right. So let's get to the real weird thing with the sword. How do you combo? In the first game, and every game after the second, you have your basic string and some different ones by delaying certain inputs. This game doesn't do that, I think. I honestly am not sure. See, this is the basic combo. But occasionally, Dante would do this. And I have no idea what the input for that was. I couldn't figure it out. But it gets weirder. If you're in the air, you have two options. Helmbreaker, the downward attack, and this kick combo thing. The difference in input here is holding lock on or not. If you hold lock on, you will do the kicks. That isn't a problem, but it took some getting used to, so I thought I'd mention it. By the way, these kicks feel really floaty in a bad way. Honestly, that's most of Dante, I guess. Floaty. Attack in the air, float. Run up the wall, float. Fire your guns, you're on the fucking moon. So let's talk guns. One thing I'd heard a lot about DMC2 is that the guns are overpowered. Now, we'll get back to that because I actually sort of disagree. But the guns are very interesting. There are multiple guns, but really you should probably stick to Ebony and Ivory. They seem to be the strongest. Side note, there are other swords, but they use the same moveset, so it doesn't matter anyways. One thing I actually really liked is that you can actually target multiple enemies at once using your two pistols, and I kinda wish this had remained across the other games, it's cool. It kinda stayed using gunslinger style, but only if you stand still, and in DMC5 is a pain to input, so yeah, credit to DMC2 on that one. Also in the air you have Rainstorm, something that is still in these games. But it's also in the air where the guns start to feel absolutely horrible. Why does it feel like you turn off the fucking gravity? Seriously, you gain height, you fall slowly, it's so weird. I can't say it wasn't useful, it helps you stay away from enemies, but it just feels wrong. Some other notes on the controls, you have a dodge button in this game. I actually quite like that, it just feels strange coming off the other games where that's not a thing. You dodge with the jump button. But it isn't a fault of the game, the only reason that it feels weird is because we now have the other games, and it wouldn't be fair to compare it to those since they didn't exist yet. Also, using the dodge button, you can run up the walls. Why didn't this stay? I love this. Yes, it also felt really floaty, but not as bad as some of the other stuff, and it's just really cool. You can wall run a little in DMC3, but only upward and only in Trickster. I feel like this would have just been cool to keep for the 4th and 5th games for Trickster, it just makes sense. By far the biggest frustration with the controls is the lock-on. See, this game has auto lock-on, and it sucks. The first game also has auto lock-on, however, in DMC2 there are some puzzles, I guess, where you have to hit some balls. But Dante doesn't lock on to the balls. And if there are enemies, and there are usually enemies, he will only focus on them, and you cannot get him to hit the balls. This puzzle in an early chapter is absolutely the worst offender here because you have to hit 2 of them, and then reach the door in a short time. However, there are enemies, so getting Dante to hit the thing is a struggle. Moreover, the enemies constantly spawn, so killing them doesn't help. Other than that, I don't have much to say. Devil Trigger feels fine, though it does actually make shooting the strongest thing ever. There's a cooler version of it if you are losing, and you have some abilities that you can add to it that, well, honestly, they're not that useful in combat, but they're here, and that's half the battle. On the topic of the guns feeling overpowered, I do not think it's true. They are definitely stronger in this game than they are in the others, capable of stun locking every basic enemy. However, the sword has similar attack power, and there were places where I'd use almost exclusively the sword, or both. Now, the real problem is that most of the bosses in this game feel like they were made only for the guns, so let's talk about that. I'll say it immediately, none of the bosses are great, none of them. However, a few of them had real potential, and one was pretty good. Not amazing, but good, and that was the final boss, but we'll get to that. The first boss is this monkey thing. He's okay, I have no problems with him, he's kind of fun, and one of the bosses that shows that the sword absolutely pulls its weight. He did mostly just stand there and let me wail on him, but, you know, first boss, it doesn't have to be a challenge yet. He climbed the ceiling. That's something. Then there's this plant octopus thing, and it's fine. Not super eventful, but that's fine for a second boss. You hit the head, and it's kind of fun dodging the tentacles. It feels like a DMC boss. It gave me some hope that maybe that wasn't that bad. The third boss... Fuck this boring, uneventful, pointless, drawn-out clusterfuck of a boss. First up, why are there infected tanks and helicopters in this game? Like, I kinda like the idea, but for Devil May Cry? Even compared to the first game, it feels strange. Anyway, this thing comes in, hangs in the air, but low enough to be attacked, so long as you're careful of the blades above it. Then he leaves, you enter this building, and the helicopter somehow chases you in a building. I don't know, but you get to the top, and then you fight it again. But now it's further away, so you have to shoot it. And then, when you think you're done, you have to make your way up a tall building, and when you reach the top, you fight it again. And it's so high that you have to stand there shooting the fucking thing. The chopper itself only has one attack where it shoots these dumbass missiles and you just jump and continue shooting. This shit takes like 5 minutes. Then there's this thing. I like it, I think. Like, it's weird, but there's something kind of cool about this guy growing out of a building. The fight itself is okay. Dodging was a bit of a bitch. His attacks were kind of annoying, and hitting him with melee attacks wasn't the most consistent, but it worked. Moving on to this fire demon. This one feels like lost potential. It feels like it should be a melee boss, but a lot of his attacks focus on pushing you away, so you end up just shooting him mostly anyways, which is really unfortunate. Then there's this bug, and holy shit, it's just a chopper again. You stand there and shoot upwards, now with the fun addition of enemies trying to eat you from below like fucking worms from Dune. Who made this shit? This is also where I discovered that other version of Devil Trigger, so at least that was kind of cool, but if I have to fight another boss like this again, I will shit somebody's pants. Next, there's this guy with the two wolves. Now, this boss is interesting. It's disappointing, but in a different way. This boss could have been good. It gets so close to being good. His moveset is fun to dodge. It almost kind of feels like a Souls boss, which, well, this is DMC, so that might sound like it wouldn't be good, but again, this is the second game. Look at this from the perspective of the time. That could have worked. The problem, though, is these stupid dogs. They jump around, they attack you, they have quite a lot of health, and sometimes when you're fighting them, the boss will just dash in from off screen to attack you. If the wolves weren't there, this would have been genuinely a good fight. He's well telegraphed, he has some decent moves, and he even blocks bullets, so you have to fight him with your sword. So close. I don't know if I should count this thing as a boss, but I'm putting it here. The idea is interesting, the execution is not. You have to stand in the circle and hit the skulls. That's it. There's this cage thing with the two balls. He was okay. Arius is kind of the main bad guy of this game, and his fight is a mess. He spawns a shitload of enemies and just kind of stands there, but I do like some of the details here. He'll sit at his desk and drink wine, and he has a gun. I don't know why, I just think that's funny. After another one of those dumbass puzzles that I spend way too long on, we fight Phantom from DMC 1. Except with less moves and easier. Cool. Then we fight the dog owner again, and it's just the same fight, so moving on. These three floating heads, the entrance is a little funky, but I like their design. They start a fight by flying there, far away, and you shoot them. Well, I did say it, so here goes nothing. Bush,
Yes.
can I shit your pants?
Why?
Don't ask.
I'm gonna ask because what the fuck?
Look, I said I would, so I don't want to shit my own pants.
What kind of shitty business is this?
Following that, we have Arias again, just the same fight. And then there's the final boss. The first phase is bad, like really bad, but I do like the idea. Basically, the bigger bosses have all merged together, including Phantom and Griffin, who wasn't even in this game, and depending on where you stand, great script writing there. It uses attacks from that boss. However, the attacks are really annoying to dodge, and sometimes if you miss a dodge, you'll get thrown into another attack immediately, so I just stood back and shot him. Also, this one can insta-kill you if you stand too close. After beating that mess, we finally get to a boss I would say is actually good. It's called the Despair Embodied, and it's this angel thing. Look, we'll get to the symbolism later because that's one of the things I love, but it's the Rebus. He, she, it wields a sword, teleports around, and has a good variety of attacks, and is fun to dodge. Also, because they teleport onto you, sword is better than gun here, so overall, pretty decent fight. Kinda wish the whole game had been like that, but, you know, there's something at least. I won't go much into the story as there isn't much there, but here's a short synopsis. Arius wants power, tries to use demonic power, shit hits the fan, Dante's gotta fix it. Sorry, too lazy, can be fucked. However, I want to focus specifically on the way this game portrays Dante. Devil May Cry, even the first one, is a fun franchise. It doesn't always make sense, it's over the top, and the story is mostly there as part of the ride. That's not to say the stories in DMC are bad, not at all, and in fact the story of the third game especially is genuinely good. However, it's good because all the characters are good. Dante in DMC2 is depressed. All the time. Granted, he is likely depressed and coping in all the games, considering he only eats pizza and ice cream and goofs off a lot. And with his backstory, that does make complete sense. However, even in the first game, Dante makes snarky comments and jokes and shows some pride. In DMC2, he barely speaks. I think it makes sense character-wise, but for Devil May Cry, it feels tonally off. I find this one hard to judge objectively because I feel like I might be taking the later games into account too much, but I don't know. And even with that, this line,
"Don't speak, just die,"
is the least Dante line I've ever heard. I also realized I forgot to put this in the script, but why is Dante Two-Face in this game?
Looks like it's your lucky day.
Why is what? I have some more miscellaneous stuff to talk about, and it's actually mostly things I liked. Visually, I think the game is really cool. I love Dante's design. It might be my favorite design for him across all games, probably tied with DMC4 Dante. I like Aria's more flamboyant design, Lucia looks pretty cool, and a lot of the environments are very nice. Good stuff. One thing I think is funny is the style meter here. The style meter is fun to look at over the whole series because it's this thing that's meant to be cool, but words change, so the older games are kinda goofy. I like the ones in 4 and 5. The third game is kinda wonky with dope, but in this game, why does it say don't worry and come on? Was that considered cool? There is actually something that I think DMC2 does better than all the others, and that is symbolism. Symbolism isn't the most important thing in DMC, but it's something I always very much appreciate. DMC1 has the Philosopher's Stone, and it's shaped accurately. The third game has the Vajra and the 4 colors on the doors in the tower. The fifth game has the Clypoth tree, but I think my favorites come from DMC2, with the Caduceus, the Ouroboros. I might be biased on that one. The Rebus, Chaos. I'm pretty sure this boss name is a reference to Trismegistus, who is a famous alchemist, though I don't quite understand the relation here. I also just noticed while editing, in Aria's room, you can see the Sephiroth, not that Sephiroth, this Sephiroth. Or maybe the Cliveoth, I'm not sure, but either way it's cool. I'm nerding out right now, but I just love this sort of shit, so just let me have this. So, is the game bad? Yes. But it's not that bad. It's mostly really weird. I don't think I would recommend this game to anybody. However, it's not the worst game I've ever played. God no, that's the fucking Berserk game that managed to make Berserk boring. However, it was bad enough that I didn't try the mode where you play as Lucia. I know some people say this game is good once you 100% it and unlock Trish, but why would I? If it costs that much for me for the game to get good, I don't think it's actually good. I do think it should still be praised for what it has meant for the series though. It introduced multiple things that are still around to this day, even if they were highly undercooked here. If you want to get into DMC, I'd recommend starting with either the 5th or the 3rd game to see if you like it, and if you do, play the others, but I would never recommend this one. Ever. I had a better time watching the Netflix anime. Granted, I actually quite enjoyed season 1 of that, though it does suck as an adaptation of these games. It doesn't feel like DMC, so I suppose that puts it on the same level as DMC2. I didn't write an outro either, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching and to ask for opinions, actually, because this is the first time I truly scripted a video like this. I have one other scripted video, but that was a lot different. And I had another video that probably should have been scripted, but I didn't write a script, so, yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to know what people thought of it. Thank you. I will see you later, and goodbye.